Good evening. Good evening and welcome to this January 19th, 2016 school board meeting of Independent School District 709. Welcome to all that are involved and welcome to our official, we had our organizational meeting at the beginning of January, but glad to have a full house here tonight that includes our new student representatives. Just want to make a very big welcome to them, and so welcome you all to coming today. We're excited to have you here. Our student member Unden from Denfeld, student member Stabs from ALC, and student member Ferguson from East. So welcome. And Clerk Leffelkamp, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Chair Annie Harla.
One moment, please. I thought being the millennial board member, this would work right away, and for some reason something happened.
It's just in the wrong mode.
Oh, it's in the wrong mode. One moment, please. Thank you.
They should have the grid comes out back with that.
I think it can work to manually turn on, can't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Clerk Leffelkamp, if you want to call the roll while we commence.
Okay. Chair Harla.
Here.
Member Johnston. Member Kirby. Member Oswald. Here. Member Sandsted. Here. Member Welty. Here. Superintendent Grunset. Here. Deputy Clerk Bill Hansen. Here. Secretary Melinda Tebow. And our student reps again from East, Spencer Fredrickson.
Thank you.
ALC, Alex Stabs. And Denfeld, Johanna Uden. Here. Okay, great.
Thank you very much. If we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now we'll look to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Member Sandsted. Do I have a second? Seconded by Member Kirby. Any discussion? Seeing no lights, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion passes. All right, now we'll move to reading and approval of the minutes. Beginning first with the minutes of Tuesday, December 15th, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move.
So moved by Member Leffelkamp.
Second.
Seconded by Member Oswald. Any discussion? All those, seeing no other lights, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Now from the regular meeting of, the first one was the special meeting. The second one is the regular meeting of Tuesday, December 15th. Do I have an approval for the agenda of those minutes? So moved by Member Kirby. Do I have a second? Seconded by Member Sandsted. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And then finally, the minutes from Monday, January 4th. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes? Moved by Member Welty. Do I have a second? Seconded by Member Sandsted. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We've approved the agenda and the minutes. All right, now we move to school and community recognition. Board members, if you could please join me in front of the dais.
Members of the board, this month I am pleased to present Jenny Peterson, STEM coordinator from Myers-Wilkin Elementary for recognition. During STEM Family Night and STEM Day, students and families at Myers-Wilkins took part in educational activities built around science, technology, engineering, and math. Teachers partnered with the Works Museum in Bloomington, WDIO-TV, Denfeld Robotics Team, Duluth Children's Museum, local scientists, and engineers. Learning opportunities included building paper towels, mini hoverboards, air-powered rockets, small bridges from magnets and metal bars, launching paper gliders, learning about weather and robots, and more. It's clear from watching the students and families who took part in the science plus technology plus engineering plus math equals fun. Many thanks to Jenny Peterson and the teachers, staff, and administration at Myers-Wilkins Elementary for providing this educational opportunity.
Congratulations on that piece. And now we move to our audience portion of the agenda. Prior to the audience portion of the agenda, I know that I left out during a roll call our community vision. And so Member Leffler-Kemp, would you please read this prior to the community vision's comments?
Sure. The purpose of Independent School District 709 is to provide a quality education that prepares all students for successful lives as global citizens in the home, community, and workplace. We will build on our shared beliefs and values of unity, high achievement, and responsible use of resources to create Duluth Public Schools and classrooms that are safe, supportive, and inclusive. We will work to inspire every student to achieve their potential and prepare students to lead productive, fulfilling lives as citizens of Duluth and the wider world.
Thank you, Member Leffler-Kemp. And now we will move to the community comment portion of this discussion. Community members, I'll remind you, you have 3 minutes to speak, and we ask that these be constructive and positive, not attacking any school board members, but also look forward to hearing from our community members as an opportunity for our community. So first we will have Bernie Burnham, and she is the president of our teachers union. Welcome.
Thank you. I'd like to say, first of all, thank you to all of you who came and had breakfast with us on Saturday morning. I think that was a good event, and I know, Member Welty, you weren't there, but we expect to see you in the spring. We will do that again, and we hope to continue building a relationship with the school board as well. I think it's worth noting that we are excited about Lincoln Middle School and the fact that it is a recipient of a community schools grant through the state of Minnesota, and knowing that our parent organization, Education Minnesota, worked on that as well, so that's good news. I have brought again this month 3 members of our teachers group, and I have with me tonight Laura LaFontaine from East, Phil Thune from ALC AEO, and Paul Davis from Stowe School. So we'll start with Laura. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Burnham. And I failed to mention earlier, we'll get 3 minutes, and Member Clerk Leffler-Kemp resets the light when it starts blinking red, then it's the next person. So welcome, Laura. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. This is my 20th year teaching in the district, but my first time speaking in front of the school board, so I hope it's a good sign. I was going to do 20 minutes, but I guess I can only talk for 3, so I'll hurry. No, I'm just kidding. I am actually very lucky to have many roles in the Duluth Public Schools. I'm a teacher, a coach, advisor, and a parent. I'm currently the health teacher at East.
I truly love my job. I have the opportunity to share information and resources to enhance the health and safety of my students. Currently, our curriculum is undergoing some wonderful upgrades with the help of Dr. Carey. We are in a textbook adoption phase and hope to add a classroom set of Chromebooks to each of our schools. Our students learn about mental and emotional health, first aid, injury prevention, and are first aid and CPR certified as a part of our course. They also learn about the dangers of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, and we're looking at hopefully pursuing a grant through the help of Mrs. Starzecki and the state of Minnesota. And we also learn about concepts of good nutrition and disease prevention. As a coach, I was able to assist Dave Wicker and Shonda Peller with the cross-country running team. We were fortunate to take both the boys and girls teams to state. A dynamic group of athletes did an excellent job representing ISD 709. With the support from the board, the need to add a third coach for our 120-plus runner team was fulfilled, so thank you. I also get to coach track for Dean East Middle School. We have record numbers there as well, with over about 130 kids participating and learning the aspects of a track meet. They're pretty cute when you're trying to explain a heat sheet. It's kind of like herding cats, but they're much cuter than cats. Not that I don't like cats. I'm currently also the Key Club advisor for East. We have almost 190 kiddos that work for us and for our school and with the community. We have wonderful guidance from our Kiwanis of Friendly Duluth group and from Tom Albright, our district coordinator of civic engagement. Our kids can be found camping in a box to raise funds for Lifehouse to help homeless youth, serving meals at the deck, ringing bells for Red Kettles for Salvation Army, organizing items for Kids Closet, and Thanksgiving activities. My best role, though, is as a parent for ISD 709. I have a daughter at East and a son at Ardene East. We watch them grow and learn through their involvement in wonderful school activities, through music, foreign language, sports, and numerous advanced classes. I know my kiddos will be prepared for the future. Both my kids have been blessed with exceptional educators that care about them. Thank you for supporting the teachers and students of ISD 709.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Phil Thune. I'll turn your light on over there.
Are we good? All right. Thank you. I appreciate the chance to speak to you and tell you about what we've been doing downstairs at the ALC and at Academic Excellence Online. I'm the science teacher there. And we were, as a staff, inspired by a project-based learning seminar from Aaron Samala. And we wanted to create a school-wide project themed in space exploration, social issues, and Star Wars. And to engage students in a different way, to gamify their learning for increased retention, and relate the ideals of a space adventure we know in Star Wars to our own relevant world here on Earth. Which led us to develop digital frameworks and this Prezi with various content area planets in which students could freely explore and find tasks and projects to complete their mission. Their mission was to assemble the various pieces of the Millennium Falcon and escape the persecution of an evil empire. To find a new planet of refuge in a distant galaxy. So some examples that we have from the different content areas. In science, they worked on an ecosystem in a bottle, modeling a Martian colony. They worked on force and acceleration and the physics of landing a rocket on another planet. In language arts, they meet in biography a unique character and develop a new language system. In music, they're developing New Planet's folk music, musical notation, and perform that music live. In social studies, they establish a new government for their planet. In PE and health, they design and play a sport for the Galactic Olympic Games. In math, they were working on computer coding and other NASA-based lessons. For each project that they finish, they earn a component of their spacecraft, which ultimately allows them to win the game and to escape. This is inherently incentivized, much like completing a mission in any game. The project storyline leads students through various tasks, multimedia, and activities toward a final goal. We're still in the process of this unit, but we're seeing some positive things with collaboration, fortitude, persistence, following through on projects, curiosity. We're looking forward also to rolling this unit out with our AEO students in the coming semester. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I see that you have it up there. It looks very neat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Paul Davis.
Hello. I'm I'm halfway through my 11th year as a teacher at Duluth Public Schools. I started out as a science teacher at Morgan Park for 5 years. Was then changed to a kindergarten teacher for a couple of years. They're the same. There's a lot of pushing and shoving and still a lot of shoes that aren't tied, so it was all good. But I currently find myself in my fourth year actually, as a 5th grade teacher, and I feel like I've really found a great spot. But I want to talk to you today about adolescent literacy. I wrote my master's thesis on how could you use technology to enhance adolescent literacy. There's some inherent awesome advantages of using technology because it's just really fun for them. But at the same time, we get an opportunity to create a situation that they're going to be in later in life anyway. So, as simple as checking or sending an email, writing on a computer, where surprisingly they're more motivated because they can actually edit a lot easier. Imagine that. I see kids that wouldn't write 1 or 2 sentences write entire 4-paragraph essays because they're able to go back and change it easily instead of rewriting it completely. Anyway, I've got a Chrome cart in my classroom and it is used every day. It's amazing. The kids that are going to leave now have the skills that they're going to need to be successful, not only in middle school, high school, but also in our world. But at the same time, there's some old schoolness to the literacy that I teach. There's a book written by R.J. Palacio called Wonder, and this is a different version of it, but she writes about a 10-year-old boy who has never been to a normal school because of major facial deformities that he had at birth. Was homeschooled because of a lot of surgeries, but then mom decided maybe it's time to go to school. So imagine being a 10-year-old boy going to a new school anyway, hard, but also having facial deformities. This book leads to unbelievable discussion on empathy, what is it like to be a friend, bullying, and perspective, because it's written from perspectives of multiple characters, including the bully. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Next we have Taylor Johnson and Ben Febringer. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having us here today. I am Taylor Johnson. I am one of the co-captains of the Denfeld Robotics team.
My name is Ben Feringer. I'm the business captain of the Denfeld Robotics team.
And we're here to talk to you today about why STEM subjects are important in the school curriculum and why robotics is important.
So STEM subjects in school are very important. They teach fundamental knowledge for problem solving. STEM subjects are going to change the world. Engineers need the fundamental knowledge for technological advances. But this isn't limited to engineers. STEM knowledge applies to every single student and every single subject and career field because technology is the future. And STEM also better prepares students for college. Robotics specifically is very important in school because it teaches numerous life skills. Many are applicable to just a multitude of career fields because they're generic. They like teamwork, public speaking, communications, leadership, project management, time management, work ethic, responsibility, and critical thinking. Robotics also teaches students more industry-specific skills such as programming, AutoCAD, mechanical engineering, electronic wiring, fabrication, grant writing, media and press releases, and web design.
The organization that we are part of, FIRST, also promotes values that are very unique to FIRST, one of which is cooperation, which is the ability to cooperate and compete at the same time. So if you are at a hockey match or any other sporting event, you wouldn't see a team rushing up with a hockey stick if another team had a broken stick or whatever. In robotics, if there is a part broken on another team's robot, we immediately rush to help out that team because we learned that by helping them, we are helping ourselves because they could be our future alliance members and we don't know. Another value is gracious professionalism, which also teaches how to be respectful, courteous, and helpful to other teams while still competing. One of the best examples of this through FIRST was 2 international teams, I believe they were China and Taiwan. They were able to form an alliance and compete while the politicians couldn't even meet in a civilized manner.
Yeah, FIRST Robotics also offers numerous opportunities for students. There are over $25 million in scholarships and lots of training for a multitude of career paths.
There are also lots of FIRST corporate sponsors worldwide that know about the reputation of FIRST around the community.
And they also offer career opportunities and internships for students.
All right, we'd like to thank you for allowing us to come and talk. We would like to invite you to our regional competition at the DEC on March 4th and 5th to compete in the 2016 FRC Challenge First Stronghold. And thank you for the opportunity to talk about the importance of STEM subjects in FIRST Robotics.
Thank you very much. Great job. Next, we have Tommy Olafson. Welcome back, Tommy.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see some familiar faces and some new ones as well. The new semester is starting up, and I'd like to address a class that I'm unfortunately not able to take in the second semester. One of my favorite classes is no longer offered at Denfeld. Our stained glass metals and fibers classes, 1, 2, and 3, are no longer offered at Denfeld. I'm assuming this is because of a lack of a certified instructor for that course. I may be under the wrong impression, but I believe that's the reason. For many students, that's their favorite class at Denfeld. They go to school every day, excited to go to stained glass at the end of the day and make something beautiful. And we had students in here last year who had some great pieces of artwork that were made in that class. If there is no instructor that is available, I'm sure it's a problem that can't be solved in the next 3 days. But there's a bunch of equipment there and a bunch of able, willing, responsible students there that could use it. With our new win time, that might be a great time to open it up, obviously with an adulted visor there, but just some way to use the equipment that is at Denfeld. Otherwise, it's just going to sit there and collect dust. So a thought there, and thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you very much, Tommy. Next, we have Lauren Martell. Welcome, Mr. Martell.
Apologize if I'm a little less optimistic than you like, Chair Harla. And there was a lot of optimism and positivity here tonight. Amid all the praise and self-praise of last month's meeting, I was aware that my valid criticism sounded a bit harsh. But I didn't even say everything I was going to say. I just called a few phrases from my 3-minute commentary. I'd intended to get into some of the demographics of the red plan. I was going to confirm, for example, that Member Johnston had been correct during the November meeting when he pointed out that the student age population in Duluth has remained constant for a number of years now. What has dropped is ISD 709's percentage take of that available pool. I left out this and other verifiable facts because I knew some people thought I was being negative and that they would view just speaking the truth as more negativity. I knew that some educators and some members of the Board of Education didn't want to hear the facts. And it continues to astonish me that such an atmosphere of denial can exist in an educational environment. Pursuit of truth is the heart of education. Learning about something, understanding it fully, getting to the facts, in short, gaining knowledge, is education. I'm ashamed that I censored myself at the last meeting, but the pressure to only speak upbeat, happy things in this room was enormous, and I wasn't just imagining it. If there's anywhere the citizens of this city should not feel intimidated, should feel free to speak out, to express themselves openly, especially when they can verify that what they're saying is true. It should be here, in an educational environment. And the same should hold true, of course, for the citizens who are board members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martell. Next, we have Marcia S. I'm guessing Marcia Stromgren. Welcome.
Thank you. And here, Mr. Martell. According to the 1/19/2016 article by the Education Reporter, a quote I will read. Last week at a committee meeting, Member Art Johnston proposed an increase. Chairwoman Annie Harless said, this is an increase in the current school board stipend that they get. Back when I took a journalism class, we were told to go get both sides. Did the Education Reporter ask Mr. Art Johnston if he did make the proposal, the initial proposal? Well, not according to him. And so, here again, let's go back to the reorganization meeting and the fact that honesty was added to one of the civility rules. Gee, I guess we don't have to follow that one. It fits our agenda. Also, what is the inclusivity of one of the civil rules over there? How's that followed? Did Art Johnston, Harry Welty, or new board member Alana Oswald get any of the positions in this current school board year? Not one. So much for inclusivity. Okay, then we have the article on 117 about classroom sizes. Well, I really had to chuckle at that one. Okay, we had a 1.2 million increase in administration in this last go-around. We couldn't give $30,000 to the lowest paid workers. And now the board, including Annie Harlow, wants to make sure that you all get a bigger stipend. Wow, that wasn't in the budget either. But the kids have to not get classes like one just got done saying, because there's no class offered at Denfeld. Kids at East get bumped because there's not enough room in the classes that are already overcrowded, and then they can't put up another teacher because, oh my goodness, we spent that money over here in administration. I know full well that on third floor, some of those offices were empty for a couple of years. They're now all full. Administration. Administration costs, and it's not going to the kids. Or maybe you think indirectly adding more administration is going to the kids. Well, I disagree. And I hardly disagree because, again, my taxes went up 5.6%. Thanks.
Mr. Stabbs, are there any other comments on the comment sheet just right next to you, right below on the table, right on the other side?
Over the counter.
Right over the counter.
Somebody signed up, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Member Johnston. Member. No? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for the wide array of comments. And that brings us to readings of communications and petitions. There are none. And so then that brings us to the report of the superintendent. Superintendent.
Thank you, Chair Harlow. Well, this week marks the end of the first semester, so officially halfway through the year. It's kind of hard to believe that we're halfway through the year already. And just a reminder that students do not have school on Friday as teachers are wrapping up things for the end of the semester. So report cards will be coming out soon, and families of elementary students will be receiving the first standards-based report cards that we implemented this year. And it's really something that we're very excited about. We've worked for a long time towards this, and I think that it provides families with very specific information regarding their child's progress and areas that they still need to work on and areas of growth. And so we're excited about that. It's also the first time that the high schools, because we changed the grading periods this time, so it's the end of their first semester where it's being totaled as 2 grade periods and a final rather than 3 grade periods and a final. And so we've been working on that and figuring out exactly what that means. And so have our students and teachers, and we'll continue to work on that so that we're all clear on it in the future. So next week, our teachers have a really exciting opportunity. Again, our innovation team is hosting another Ed Camp. And the last time we had Ed Camp, it went really well. It's a teacher-led professional development. So when you come to the conference, an Ed Camp conference, there's nothing on the agenda. And the people who come decide what it is they want to learn and what it is they want to work on during that time period. And so they're gaining popularity all over the country, and we're proud that we're offering that right here in our district and reaching out to our surrounding district teachers who would like to be a part of that as well. So that is next Thursday, January 28th, right here at Hawks in room 318 from 4:30 to 7. And Duluth teachers who want to be a part of that can sign up through the news and views on the website, or can call Wendy to get connected with news and views if they're not sure how to do that. I do have to say that I have been watching the Star Wars kind of unfold downstairs. And as I walk through in the morning and at the end of the day, there's more and more Star Wars things appearing throughout the hallways. It's just been fun to see the excitement grow about that. And I think that it's a great motivator for our students, especially who may not have always found success in a more traditional setting, to be really involved in that. And it's great to see. Now, a little bit about winter weather. I think that perhaps some of us were a little spoiled by the early winter. It's been unseasonably warm, and I don't think I need to remind anyone that it's colder now. And so I want to make sure that all of our kids are dressed warmly for the trip to and from school and during recess. So let's make sure that we're sending them off with hats and scarves and mittens and boots and snow pants and whatever it takes to stay warm on the way to and from school and during recess. We want our kids to be prepared. If your family does not have the resources to provide that for your students, please let an adult at the school know. We have many, many resources for students who have needs for coats or hats or mittens or boots. We want all of our kids to be well prepared for the weather and to be safe. So don't be afraid to contact any adult in the school, and they'll be able to connect you with some resources. In the case of extreme weather, should we have a lot of snow or that the weather becomes so cold that it wouldn't be safe for us to go to school, we do have the same tools for calling school, either a 2-hour late start or cancellations that we've used in the past, and we'll be communicating that in the same ways through the media, television, radio, emails, tweeting, and to that toolbox we're adding the automatic dialer. So if school were going to be late or canceled, please make sure that we have your current phone numbers on file so that you can receive those calls as well. And last but certainly not least, as it's been said a few times tonight, we are welcoming 3 new student representatives to the school board. And again, this year, we will be having students give reports from the schools. And we won't put them on the spot quite tonight to have them do a full report, but I would love for them to introduce themselves and let us know a little bit about them. So why don't we start down on the right? Oh, and because we have 2 on one side and 1 on the other, we're going to kind of switch them around month to month so that they have a new perspective. So why don't we start with Representative Stubbs tonight? Yep, it's on already.
Hello everyone, my name is Alex Stubbs and I am the Vice President of Student Council at ALC. I just want to say how thankful I am to be here tonight with everyone, and it's been a great year so far at ALC. I came here last year towards the end of the year, and I stayed till this year and plan to do so. The teachers, I just have to say I have to thank them so much for being there and supporting everyone. It really made a difference in my life, and I wouldn't be here if it weren't for them, so I just want to say thank you. It is pretty amazing that I'm able to sit here, because I never thought that I would be here before, and it's just a new experience, and I just want to say thank you.
Representative Frederickson?
Just press your light, actually. Great.
Hello everyone, my name is Spencer Frederickson. I am a junior at Duluth East High School. I just like to say that it is amazing to be here. I'm very thankful for everyone who helped me on this journey, and we had a very good educational election at our school, and I hope to have a great year as our school board representative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you want to just press the button on your light, both of you. Thank you. And then, remember, underneath, if you want to press your light, just press the button. Yep. All right. Okay. It's all yours.
All right. Hi, I'm Johanna Unden. I'm a junior at Denfield High School. I used to live in the cities, and I ended up going to Lincoln Park in 8th grade, and since then I've been in the Duluth schools. I've been at Denfield High School since I was a freshman, and it's been a great experience, and I love it there. I'm a part of the executive board at Denfeld, so I do a lot of the planning for school events, and I do a lot of planning of our assemblies, school dances, school events, and stuff like that, and it's really fun, and I'm really excited to be here, and I just want to say thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of our students, and we look forward to great reports in the future. And Madam Chair, that is all I have for tonight.
Thank you very much, Superintendent. All right, now we will move to the reports from our standing committees. I will move, first we will move to the Education Committee. So Member Leffler-Kemp, if you want to give your report.
Yep. First want to just say again, Spencer, Alex, and Johanna, this is why many of us ran for school board, is for the things that, for what you stand for as students in our district. And we look forward to hearing your reports of what kids across our district are doing. So it's great having you here. And also just thank you, Bernie, Laura, Phil, and Paul again for highlighting all the great things that are going on out in the trenches in our schools. So really appreciate that. The Education Committee want to move on to grant awards and under informational items. And the first one is recommended that the Duluth School Board receive this item with the Northland Foundation grant. Leanne Vichet, developmental adaptive physical education teacher, submitted a grant from the Northland Foundation, $2,000. And again, it would be for students at Lester Park, Myers Wilkins, and Congdon Park. And do you want me to do the resolution or just keep going?
You can go ahead and do the resolution, actually.
Okay. And then on page 9 is Resolution E1163332, and find it. Acceptance of grant awards to Duluth Public Schools, whereas Minnesota Statute 46503 requires a school district to accept grants by resolution expressed in the terms prescribed by the donor in full. Whereas acceptance of the grant in accordance with the donor's terms is in the best interest of the Duluth Public Schools, therefore be it resolved that the Duluth Public Schools does accept the below described grants from said organizations in accordance with the terms set forth herewithin. Be it further resolved that the Duluth Public Schools wishes to extend its grateful appreciation to these various organizations. And again, 3 grants, and from the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation, $10,000 to fund and support the Denfeld robotics team, and it was great having the Denfeld students here earlier. The second is the grant I had just mentioned from the Northland Foundation, $2,000 for the Let's Dance program at Lester Park, Myers Wilkins, and Congdon Park. And then the third from the Minnesota Department of Education, $97,000. Funds from this grant will be to hire a school coordinator for our Lincoln Park Middle School community schools. And we are really excited about this grant, excited about the leadership of Principal Brenda Vodhauer, who has worked on this grant, and it's really a model of the work that we're doing at Myers Wilkins, and so please read through the details of that. So again, I recommend this resolution.
So it has been moved by Member Leffler-Kemp. Do I have a second? Seconded by Member Welty. All those in favor? Or, sorry, discussion on this resolution. Member Sandstead.
I just wanted to point out how amazing this is that we're moving forward and getting another community school at Lincoln Park, and I think it's going to be wonderful. It's been quite a success at Myers Wilkins, so I'm excited to see in the next year how they're putting this together and how it turns out.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Member Oswald.
And I also want to comment on the great work that the community school will give to the Lincoln Park neighborhood and all that attend there. And I also wanted to congratulate the Denfeld DNA for getting their $10,000. That you think it's a lot of money, but it is not even all of the money required to attend a regional. So it's quite impressive in itself, but they still need more.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing no other lights, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Member Leffler-Kemp, if you could continue with the rest of the Education Committee agenda.
Okay, and then B on page 25 is our 2016-2017 school year calendar, and it's recommended that we approve this, and also just highlight that the calendar was presented to and approved by the Quality Steering Leadership Team at their December 10th meeting. So again, it's recommended that the Duluth School Board accept and approve the recommended calendar for 2016-2017 school year. And then C, extended field trip request, and the 3 requests are on page 26. Great opportunities for our students. 4th grade students from Piedmont Elementary will be going to Wolf Ridge in March. The second field trip request is for Duluth Public Schools 11th and 12th grade health occupation students. Will be going to their spring state leadership conference in April. And then the third is Denfeld Skills USA Automotive Club will be traveling also to Skills Conference in April. And again, for all 3 of those, it's recommended that the Duluth School Board accept and approve the above listed field trip request. Go on, okay. And then D is a policy deletion, 6190, homebound instruction. That's on page 41. And we've been moving towards the NSBA model policies, and so the administration is recommending the deletion of policy 6190, and this is recommended for first reading. NSBA does not have a policy on this, and as Assistant Superintendent Starzecki explained to us at the committee meeting, there's state statutes that we follow, and Assistant Superintendent works closely with the students and the families on homebound, our homebound program. And then lastly, diploma request. We have 3 diplomas. The following students have met all graduation requirements for the Duluth Public Schools and should be awarded a diploma. Stacy Jean Marie Larson, Jacob B. Dahlgren, and Jordan D. Ford. And again, it's recommended that we accept and approve with great congratulations the above listed diploma request. Future items, secondary programming structure.
You move your agenda.
And again, I move the Education Committee items.
Thank you, Member Leffler-Kemp. She's motioned, move the committee agenda. Is there a committee report? And is seconded by Member Oswald. Any discussion? And we'll go through, you'll highlight which areas you'd like to pull, and then we can do that. So welcome, forgot to mention, welcome back, Member Welty, from your travels. So here. I see you have a discussion point. What would you like to bring forward?
Yes, and for the students here, you're of course welcome to pull items for discussion. I'm going to have to pull a few things because I was absent this month without leave, and hopefully I'll sound reasonably articulate because I've been in the air for about 15 hours today without a good night's sleep in between travels. But I'd like to pull 2B, the school year calendar, for a couple of questions. And then item, on the next page, item 2D, the MSBA model policies on homebound instruction.
Great, thank you. Members, any other items for discussion? Member Welty, if you would begin with bringing forward your questions on 2B.
Mrs. Starzecki, quick question. I have to ask, is there anything that's a change in the calendar that you discussed and was pointed out that I missed?
Yes, one moment. I'll turn your light on here. Thank you.
All right. Yes, we did make a few adjustments. It's pretty similar to this year. The major adjustment that you're going to see is the Thursday of MEA was a staff development day, and that day was moved to the week before school starts, and so there will be some additional time for teachers prior to school beginning. So teachers will work during workshop week, the week before school starts, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, as opposed to just 2 days. And then that day goes to no students, no staff on that Thursday of October in MEA weekend. Some staff may choose to attend the Ed Minnesota Conference down in the cities as well as part of that time period. And currently we have a staff development day in February. Given the time off in February on this calendar, we felt it was probably best placed towards the end of January, towards the start of second semester to move forward with some staff development opportunities. Other than that, I think that was the biggest change. We did talk about the need to embed more frequent staff development time at the building level. Principals are asking for more time together to work through our district initiatives, so we have plans in place to have some staff development time within the buildings. That is not seen on the calendar, but will be part of our planning for next year.
Thank you. Member Welty, you had a comment?
This is a more general question that's not really tied to the calendar so much, except indirectly. When I was a teacher 40 years ago, there were 2 rival unions, the Minnesota Education Association and the Minnesota Federation of Teachers. And MEA weekend was it was kind of a constant throughout the state of Minnesota, but in this district, Federation teachers frequently had very little to do with it, but I think it was a day off, or perhaps we did some things internally here to train teachers. Now that we have Education Minnesota, which is essentially a merger between those two unions, what proportion of our teachers have been going down to the MEA activities wherever it happens to convene? Do you have any sense of that?
I'm going to hand this to the superintendent.
We really don't have a way of tracking that because they weren't here this year. I know that we did have a group of teachers travel down to the conference, and I think that there's a growing number of teachers who are interested in attending that, especially with our newer, younger teachers.
Thank you. Member Welty?
If I could follow up on that. I know that the question of relicensure for our teachers requires additional learning and in-servicing, and I'm wondering if the MEA activities or the activities that we have for staff development count for some of the relicensure qualifications that our teachers need in order to maintain their certification and licensure.
I'm seeing President Burnham shaking her head vigorously, yes, that they do. And I know that it has been we've heard from the teachers union that it's been a push to get people more involved in statewide, and also know that our teachers union, the Education Minnesota, is both a part of the American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association, and work together on those pieces, a piece that we learned a lot on Saturday. So looking forward to that. Thank you. Any other questions on that? Right, and now moving on again to Member Welty's question on the homeschooling piece.
This is one of those many things that remind me that I can't retain information that I'm given. So I'll probably ask you about the calendar again next month, Mrs. Starzecki. But on the homebound instruction, we're proposing that we have a cancellation of this for a first reading of this old homebound instruction reading. I believe we had a new MSBA policy that mentioned different kinds of instruction, including homebound instruction, that may have taken the place of this one and eliminated the need for this. Am I correct in having seen homebound instruction on some other MSBA policy that we've considered recently?
Member Welty, I'll hand that over to Assistant Superintendent Starzecki.
We did talk about homeschool recently, which does get confused with homebound sometimes. This is specifically when we have students with medical needs who require us to provide homeschool and education at typically a home site or a separate site outside of school. What I shared at the Ed Committee is when I referred to this policy, as this is part of what happens through my office is coordinating that, and when I reviewed the policy, it was outdated. And when we looked at model policies through MSBA, there was no suggestion for a policy in this area given the statute and the guidelines that we have to follow through the Department of Education. So those are the guidelines that we're using to make sure we're in compliance and get kids services as soon as they need them.
A comment, Member Welty.
And so, in other words, because there's state statutory law that covers this, we really don't need a policy. That law takes effect, and we just simply have to abide by it. Therefore, this is just extra verbiage we don't need.
Correct. Thank you. Seeing no other lights on the Education Committee, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion. Committee report passes 7-0. Thank you, Member Leffler-Kemp. All right. Next, we will move on to Member Kirby for his report of the Human Resources Committee.
Thank you. Do you want me to move to approve this whole thing first and then go down through the...
No, I would just walk through it and then approve it and
Okay.
move to approve
All
at the end. Thank you.
All right. The human resources action items include the following staffing report. There was one certified appointment, one certified permanent increase, one certified retirement, one certified temporary decrease, 1 certified temporary increase, or 3 certified temporary increase, 11 non-certified appointments, 13 non-certified leaves, 4 non-certified long-term subs, 6 non-certified promotions, 1 non-certified reclassification, 6 non-certified resignations, 2 non-certified retirements, 1 non-certified temporary decrease, 1 non-certified termination, and 8 non-certified temporary increases. And these were all given to us by Human Resources Director Swirsky. Secondly, I would like to review the Resolution H.R. 1-16-3331, the Duluth Principals Association Collective Bargaining Agreement, which is effective from July 1st, 2015 to June 30th, 2017. Resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that the collective bargaining agreement between Independent School District 709 and Duluth Principals Association, a summary of which is in the hands of all school board members, be approved and adopted for the periods July 1st, 2015 to June 30th, 2017 inclusive, and that the chairperson and clerk of the school board be hereby authorized to execute said agreement on behalf of the school district. And I would move that this resolution be adopted.
It has been moved by Member Kirby. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Member Leffler-Kemp. Any discussion on the principal's contract? Member Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple things that I always say. I always like to see I'd like to see our collective bargaining agreements adopted before or shortly close to when they expire. And this isn't the first time this has happened, but I always bring that up. I just don't like to approve something. In this case, it's almost 6 months late. And that's typical, but I hope that we can do better. I've always suggested that. I'll be voting for this, of course. I do want to point out that it's about $130,000 increase, and I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying that I'm pointing that out to the public. And this is just one of our about 12 collective bargaining agreements. I wonder if Mr. Swirsky could give a summary of any changes that we may have had in this collective bargaining agreement over the previous one.
Mr. Swirsky.
Outside the money issue that I brought up already.
Yeah, actually, outside of the money issue, it was mostly cleaning up the language that was in there. There wasn't any major changes to any of the pieces that are in there. I think if you've looked through, you would notice that they changed like the employee to members in many of the places, but for the most part, it was just language cleanup, other than the increases.
Member Johnston.
Thank you. I was just asking. That's clarification for the public. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the Principals Association contract? And we can actually just move this as a part of the whole. Oh, Member Welty.
Yes, I'd like to go back to the first portion of the meeting, just the action items for employment employees, if I might.
Go ahead, Member Welty.
Mr. Swirsky.
Oh, sorry, one moment. Oh, sorry, we need to vote on the resolution.
Oh,
one moment,
that's
please.
fine.
We will vote on the resolution. All of those in favor of the principal's contract? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Contract passes 7-0. Thank you very much. And now we will move back to the committee and pulling out items for discussion. I saw both Member Welty and Member Leffler-Kemp had their lights on. Member Welty, what would you like to pull?
Because this is personnel related and personnel issues really cannot be dug up and dug into because they're protected by law, data privacy. I just have a comment to make, and perhaps we can talk about this at a later date, Mr. Swirsky, but I would like to mention it. At the last meeting in December, at the last minute, we had a placeholder, and it happened to be the resignation of an individual who was one of the people who was caught up in some of the unpleasant.
Member Welty, this is not that. What does this have to do directly with this agenda?
Madam Chair, I will explain if you allow me to continue. We had a resignation that involved somebody who was caught up in some of the unpleasantness last year, and it came up just at the beginning of the school board meeting. We hadn't seen the name before. I did not have a chance to review this because I was not at the HR committee meeting, but I see there is a termination of yet one more person who was caught up in this. And I just want to express some concern that this does not represent the house cleaning or a purge of people who were caught up and somehow did not do what they were supposed to do. And because it is a data privacy related issue, that's about all I can say, but perhaps the two of us can talk about this at some point in the future. I just wanted to express that concern.
Member Welty, you're welcome to discuss that with the Chair, Superintendent, and Mr. Swirsky and me.
Thank you.
Member Leffler-Kemp, you had a comment.
Yeah, two comments. Just a reminder to the public that all of our information that we receive and go over in our committee meetings does come out by email as well as the written packet, and it's available the Thursday before our meetings. So just so the public is aware of that, and all board members have access to that.
Member Leffler-Kemp, we need to...
And I just want to state that I appreciated seeing that Mandarin Chinese is being offered both at East and Denfeld, and that was under the certified appointment. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments on the HR committee agenda? Seeing no other... would you like to move the HR committee agenda?
Okay. I'd like to move that the entire agenda be adopted.
Second.
It has been moved by Member Kirby, seconded by Member Welty. And is there a further discussion on this agenda? Seeing no other lights, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We are going to take a 3-minute recess until 7:35. And we will be back at that time.
C-208. C-8085, which deals with the policy determining meeting agenda. This is a proposed deletion. It's recommended that the Duluth School Board approve the deletion of policy 8020. This is the first reading. It will be replaced with MSBA policy 203.5. D, 8100, adequate information to precede action. This is another, it's recommended that the Duluth School Board approve the deletion of policy 8100. This is the first reading, and this policy is to be replaced by 203.5. E, 9065, adoption, amendment, and suspension of policies and bylaws. This is recommended that the Duluth School Board approve the deletion of policy 9065. This is the first reading. This policy is to be replaced with MSBA model policy 208. F, 9075, the agenda for regular meetings. It's recommended that the Duluth School Board approve the deletion of policy 9075. This is the first reading. It's to be replaced with MSBA policy 203.5. 9080, advanced mailing of meeting materials. It's recommended that the Duluth School Board approve the deletion of policy 9080, first reading. H, 9095, order of business for regular meetings. It's recommended that the Duluth School Board approve the deletion of policy 9095, first reading, to be replaced with MSBA policy 203.2. Then we have the new policies. 203.2 addresses the order of the regular school board meeting, and it's recommended that the Duluth School Board approve policy 203.2. This is the first reading. New policy 203.5, the school board meeting agenda. It's recommended that the school board approve policy 203.5 for the first reading. New policy 208, development, adoption, and implementation of policies. It's recommended that the Duluth School Board approve policy 208, first reading. And I can tell you that with regard to all of these policy changes, we had quite an extensive discussion about the process for changing policies generally, not related specifically to these policies. And there were various opinions on a policy committee or other ways. And then a reminder that about a year ago, the board passed a policy or a resolution to go through these policies. And this is the process that we've gone through since in updating these policies, deleting old policies and replacing them with new language based on the MSBA's model policy. So the numbers are changing and the policies are being consolidated in some instances or replaced, and we review the language that changes or any constructive actual changes in the policies. So those were the policy changes we went over. On to number 4. There is a placeholder there, but it's not needed at this point. We don't have a contract at this time. Number 5, we have a resolution B1163333.
Member Sandsted, if you would please just read those resolutions, and we'll do those individually and then move the full agenda after.
Okay. Resolution, acceptance of donations to Duluth Public Schools. Whereas Minnesota Statute 465.03 requires a school district to accept donations by resolution expressed in the terms prescribed by the donor in full, and whereas acceptance of the donations in accordance with the donor's terms is in the best interests of Duluth Public Schools, now therefore be it resolved that the Duluth Public Schools does accept the below described donations from said organizations in accordance with the terms set forth herein. Be it further resolved that the Duluth Public Schools wishes to extend its grateful appreciation to these various organizations. And we've got a list here of many, many donations totaling over $16,000 going to the Denfeld cheer team, physical education at Denfeld, the Sterling Strings at East, the Garden Club at Ordine, and Lego Robotics at Congdon, and things of that nature. So it's a wide variety of items and great activities that our students engage in. So that is resolution B1163333. And you want me to continue rather than vote? No.
We'll vote on this.
Okay.
So it's been moved by Member Sandsted.
Second.
Seconded by Member Leffler-Kemp. Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing no lights, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. You may continue.
All right, number 6, we reviewed expenditure contracts, revenue contracts, and other contracts, change orders, facilities management, and capital project status. And we discussed the legislative platform. Big picture-wise, we're going to address that in our February meeting, set out the agenda for this legislative session. And then we cut short the update to the 10-year capital facilities plan. We're going to get a good in-depth explanation in our next meeting. So that is it, besides policy updates in the future. So I would move the report of the Business Committee.
Thank you, Member Sandsted. She has moved the report. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Member Leffler-Kemp, and I'm sure we have discussion items. So, Member Welty, what would you like to pull?
Yes, I'd like to pull policies and regulations 3A, 3B, and 3D.
Member Welty, 3A, 3B, and 3D?
That is correct.
Thank you. Member Johnston.
1F, 3I, 3J.
Great. 1F, 3I, and 3J, is that correct, Member Johnston?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just want to ensure that I have that. All right. Any other comments? All right, we will go in order. Member Johnston with 1F.
Sure. This is what we used to call a Wadham report, which is an enrollment report. And I do have to bring it up again. I know I'm hoping that the new board will look at these reports and also look at my comments as something we have to look at and be constructive to try to change what I think is a serious issue that we're facing as our school district. Again, we lost another 28 students. People don't like numbers, but look at that. We basically lost a classroom of kids from last month. If we go back a year ago, we've lost 172, which is about 6 classrooms of kids. And I don't have to say how much money we're looking at that. It's about $2 million. Again, I was hoping that we were going to have start having an upward cycle in our numbers. We haven't. In fact, this number is, as far as I know, the second lowest number in maybe 100 years in the Duluth Public Schools. The other lowest number was last June, where it was 15 lower than it is now. And I'm afraid we're going to start breaking records again on low numbers of students. And that's, we get money. That's how we operate. Our operating budget is based on our number of students. And when we have a loss of students, we have a loss of operating money. And just emphasizing to people that when we lose students, yes, we maybe have less expenses, but there's a significant amount of fixed costs that we as a district have. And we have a lot of debt payments, we have utility payments, we can go on and on. In fact, I figure we have about $50 million in fixed costs that are going to stay exactly the same whether or not we have had 0 students or our current number of students. So when we start losing students, those fixed costs still have to be paid, and it is really critical, I think, as a school, as a community, that we look at this number and we have to find ways to change that. And I'd certainly like to have, I think this is actually critical. I'd certainly like to have the chair. I think we should even have a committee of the whole meeting on this specifically, because it is absolutely critical on how we get our revenue. And the trends are still not looking good. And so that's my comments.
Thank you, Member Johnston. Member Welty.
Thank you, Chair Harla. I know in the past board members have felt that constantly pointing to WADMs or APU now, the new terminology, new acronym, is discouraging, and it certainly is. I expect, generally speaking, from my experiences going back 18, 19 years as a school board member, that the populations of the schools hit their peak shortly after the beginning of the school year, and then you begin to have students drop out and move elsewhere. So a decline month by month is not necessarily all that worrisome. Perhaps we should be more proactive, to use one of those words I don't like, but it's been around for about 25 years and I'm stuck with it, and think in terms of things that we can do to try to stop that. Now, at the beginning of our meeting tonight, we had some people talk about wonderful things going on in our school district, and I certainly understand that emphasizing those things and communicating to the public the good things going on in our district would probably be a better way to keep people from being discouraged and pulling out. But the issue of student losses is something that we have to deal with, and perhaps we could find, as Member Johnston mentioned, some other way of doing it and strategizing, so that the only time we do it month by month is when we discuss student enrollment. I do believe that Lauren Martell is correct. He said that the student numbers are relatively flat. Our Duluth population has really not dropped in recent years. It's hovered around 92,000. My wife told me recently that the average age in Duluth is 33, which surprised me a great deal, because it seems to me it was maybe a decade or so ago the average age was somewhere in the 50s. That suggests that we do have a rising number of young people, but somehow our school district is not hanging on to them. And it does suggest that those students are out there. There are no more options for them to go elsewhere. We want to keep them here in ISD 709. So it might be worthwhile getting our heads together at some point and sitting down and thinking through this so that the only time we talk about it isn't when Wadhams or now APU comes up at the business committee meeting. That's just my observation on the subject, Chair Harla.
Thank you, Member Welty. Member Sandstead.
I know that this, the pupil units was an issue throughout the campaign, and we've talked about this quite a bit in the public over the last 6 months at least. But I'm really excited about the Spanish immersion program that's coming to Lowell, and I'm going to the informational session tomorrow night because I have a kindergartner starting next year, which is scary. But I wanted to be on the board in part to represent those families who are choosing where to send those kids. And I think that what's happening with the immersion programs in our schools is one of those ways that we are going to see some improvement in gaining families. And so just wanted to put it out there that anybody else who has kindergartners next year, Lowell's having their informational session tomorrow at 6 p.m. So that's a great opportunity.
Thank you, Member Sandstead. Member Johnston.
Well, just one thing I forgot to mention, which I think is kind of important, is that we bounce back up and down on which grades are which are losing and which are gaining. Unfortunately, most are losing. But this month, it appears that our biggest loss has been in Denfeld. A big loss this month in Denfeld, and it's not the first time, unfortunately.
Thank you. Superintendent, a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention in my report I was saying that the end of the semester is this week. And so sometimes we will see an increase in these numbers at the beginning of the new semester as students who perhaps dropped a class or so or completely out the first semester will come back during the second semester, so we'll continue to watch these numbers as we always do.
Thank you. Member Kirby.
Thank you. I agree with Member Johnston that it's not an easy thing to look at these. If I looked back at the numbers from October through now, and we've gained kindergarten students. HK, I'm not sure what that line is in here.
It's kindergarten for students with disabilities.
Okay, 17 positive since then. We've lost 3 in grades 1 through 3, gained 9, 7, and 8th graders, and it was in 9 through 12 that the biggest loss came. So it varies by grade level, and I'm sure by the area of the district as well. So I think we should look at this. Secondly, at the School Board Association meeting I went to, I heard several comments that student enrollment throughout the state is declining. Specifically at one of it was Minnesota State High School League, they were talking about football. And football is doing well in Minnesota, evidently, but there are fewer people participating because the numbers of students in general are down. So this is not necessarily unique to here, although the specific reasons may be, and I think that looking at that would be helpful, but it can't be just a single number.
Thank you. Any further discussion on 1F? Thank you. Prior to moving into the portion on policies and regulations, I just want to highlight a bit of the process that we talked about last week, and then also just thank Member Sandstead for her report, but want to say that in February of 2015, there was a special resolution done by the board. It's in our minutes, and that we as a board last year approved that we would be going through all of the model policies from the MSBA. At that point in time, we tasked the administration with looking at our former policies, looking at our current, looking at the former policies, pairing them up with the Minnesota School Board Association policies, and then finding a way to compile them. And one item that I want to note is, I guess, in looking at the agenda in the coming month, that we'll look at highlighting the differences a little bit more, and so look forward to talking to Mr. Hansen and the superintendent about that. But I had a very spirited discussion and wanted to ensure that we will be talking about it both months. But that was something. This is a process that's been set in place that we were working with. That we tasked the administration with doing that, and then it does come to the board for a robust discussion. And there were some changes made at that time. So I wanted to preface that with that area. And so moving into item 3A, Member Welty.
Yes, when this one came up, this was a big surprise to me. One of the things I was able to do, although I was gone, I had basically 10 and 12-hour days. I did check the Duluth News-Tribune, and I saw today that apparently Member Johnston was interested in a change, and now I've heard that maybe Member Johnston was not the person who was advocating or getting an 11% increase. And I see him shaking his head vigorously no, so I'm not quite sure how the origin of this came about. But I've got to be honest about my sense of this. This is not an MSBA-related change. This is just our old policy on compensation updated to give all of us 10% more. And I've got to say it's the wrong message of all school boards, this school board, to communicate to the community as a whole and to our teachers. We're coming up with new contract negotiations, and I know teachers watch school boards very closely, and if we decide that we should give ourselves a 10 or 11% increase in our compensation, they'll remember that when it comes time to negotiate. They'll think to themselves, well, the school board is taking care of themselves. How about taking care of us? And we know from our teachers' correspondence to us that in one of our high schools, the teachers feel that they're so overburdened that we do not have a chance to vet students, and we're rushing kids through students for which they're not prepared. And in the other high school, they gave us a long list of the number of classes that had 30 kids or 35 kids or 40 kids. And it is simply not prudent for us to send a message that we can just go ahead and pay ourselves. And I don't think I need to remind the school board, the newcomers or the old members of the school board, that we've gone through a very tough couple of years. And I think the most gentle criticism I've heard came in a comedy review put on by the Rubber Chicken Theater at the end of the year, in which they commented on the school board only to say, rather humorously, that the much-beloved Mayor Ness, was out handing pardons to people for their transgressions last year. And they went through a long list of people that the mayor, who was, as we all know, one of the most popular figures in Duluth, was handing out. And one of the big laugh lines was that he had handed out a pardon to the entire school board. This is not a school board that should be rewarding itself. We have to clean up our act, and we have to demonstrate that there is trust out there in the community, and this sends all the wrong messages to everyone. Duluth is one of the few school boards that really does have a fairly generous stipend. It always has. I'm, in some cases, almost embarrassed at the amount of money I currently am paid. But I do know that it's a tough job at times, and it's certainly been tough this last couple of years for all of us on whichever side we were on to dig through. And I know one of the hardest working people, and not all school board members in the years that I've watched school boards are particularly hardworking, but one of the hardest working school board members is Member Johnston. And he had not only his school board work, but some other things that he had to devote an incredible amount of time to last year. But I don't think that this is something that looks good. It doesn't pass the smell test. I certainly heard some of the justifications given to it. I know that in our school board, I am among the wealthiest members. I don't probably need the money, but it's kind of gratifying to be given a stipend. And we have some people who are on the opposite spectrum financially. And perhaps it would be nice to think that poorer people would be attracted to this stipend. But my guess is that a lot of poor people just simply couldn't stand the time to campaign, and that's probably the chief obstacle, not the limited amount of pay that they're given for working on the school board. So I would love to see this. In fact, I will move that we pull this resolution. I move that we pull this off of the agenda at this point.
Okay, Member Welty is moving to pull this item from the agenda. Is there a second? That has been seconded by Member Johnston. Any discussion on directly pulling this item from the agenda? Not on this portion, but just on pulling this item from the agenda. Member Sandstead.
I would just say that one of the comments that I made at the committee meeting was that it's very uncomfortable to come to your first school board meeting and vote on a raise. And I think that I understand that this is a policy established in the past that says the school board is supposed to look at this policy every January. But from the perspective of somebody brand new here, it doesn't make sense to put this on the agenda the first meeting for new members. So I would not have a problem moving this to another time of the year. I don't think it makes sense to put it at the very end of someone's term, but maybe to make this a every other year discussion, or to set up down the line, to set up some sort of schedule so that it's a predictable change in the compensation. I think that makes sense.
Thank you. Comments on pulling this from the agenda? Member Oswald.
I'd just like to echo Member Sandstead's concerns about walking into our first board meeting as new people sitting here and saying, hey, I get a raise. That's definitely not any of our three intentions. If I can take the liberty for speaking for Member Kirby, I do believe that it's a fair amount once we prove ourselves and prove that we can work together as an entire board and we're doing our jobs in a positive way and making our schools better. I won't have a problem removing this from the agenda at this point to push it back to a time where we can show and demonstrate to our community that we are worth it. I have a problem with it being categorized as an 11% increase because that wasn't part of our conversations during the committee meetings, because the conversation was a 2% raise when other people got a raise. And that's where I stand with what we're doing with this. And I agree with Member Welty's motion. Yeah.
Just making sure we're staying on the motion. All right. Yeah, this is something that has been, that the board in previous years had said to bring up every year, and I remember feeling the same way when I began, but compelled by some of the discussion that was brought forward, that it was an interesting discussion. Member Johnston, comments on whether or not to pull this from the agenda.
There's a lot of issues here. The biggest one is the board, as Member Welty said, has been so dysfunctional for 2 years, such an embarrassment for the community, to the city, to the school. We certainly do not deserve to get anything. But there's also an ironic part of some of the reporting on this. There was actually, believe it or not, a poll on a web page by the Duluth News Tribune saying whether we should get a raise or not. This must be the first poll that the school, the Duluth News Tribune, has ever done on anything to do with the Duluth schools. And they didn't have a poll about should we have a vote on the long-range facility plan or not. They didn't have a vote, say, a year and a half ago when we gave a $2.5 million pay raise to the teachers. They didn't have a poll. They didn't even have an article about this month when we gave $160,000
Member Johnston, is
raise
this about
to
pulling
them.
the item from the agenda?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And so I think it is too bad that we as a board get stuck with extremely poor reporting. And even though this board doesn't really deserve to get a pay raise, and I'll be supporting Member Walty's thing, it's too bad that the reporting, nobody talks about any of the other money that we, like $160,000 we just gave today.
I'll be voting to keep this on the agenda so we can actually fully represent the discussion that we had at the committee meeting, because there was a lot more discussion that was had talking about many other things, but want to stay true to Robert's rules, and would be happy to vote down that once we get to it, but was compelled by some of the motions that were brought forward that evening, and which is why I had moved on that. So seeing no other lights, all of those in favor of pulling this item from the agenda, say aye. Aye. Can I have a raise of hands just so I can see? 1, 2. All right, that's my majority. So this item is officially pulled. Oh, sorry. Those opposed to pulling this from the agenda? No? No. So that passes 4-3. So the item is pulled from the agenda. All right. Member Welty, formulation. Sorry, excuse me. Yes. Members in favor of pulling the item from the agenda: Member Welty, Member Oswald, Member Sandstead, and Member Johnston. Those opposed: Member Harala, Member Leffler-Kemp, and Member Kirby. All right. Member Welty, item 3B.
I have not been, there are quite a number of policies that we're taking a look at, but I know we have talked about a policy committee, and I have not yet today, having gotten back a couple of hours ago, had a chance to read through all of these or think through them all, but I see that we're striking 8065, formulation of policies and bylaws. I just make the point somehow, I want to make sure that the school board is writing the policies, or that it is the one that is thinking these through, and it's not being handed things that have not been given due consideration. And I am very much in favor of some sort of a policy committee, so we can in as organized and deliberate a fashion as possible, make sure that as we move from the higgledy-piggledy policies of 100 school boards passed here in Duluth, we have a sensible integration of what we want to keep with the MSBA policies. And other than saying that right now, since I wasn't a part of that, the business committee discussion last week, I'll just leave it at that.
I would say that the robust discussion that was had really highlighted that the roles of the business committee, the HR committee, and the education committee, the work that the administration does really brings us the compilation of both, shows us the past and what's to come, and does a lot of the homework to support that. And we as a board, as you've seen for the last couple of years, do discuss what's coming forward on those policies. And so, and even made some changes here. So just want to highlight that we do as a board take a lot of, and in preparation for this, I spent a lot of time reading. I know you were out of the country, understandable. We all have our times that we go back and forth, but I take it very seriously each month. I know many members that do take it very seriously each month to provide comment. So, Member Oswald.
I just have a general comment, being a new person on the board and trying to understand the difference between policies and bylaws. And my understanding of bylaws is more that it's a constitutional thing versus a policy is still important, but not as important as a bylaw. And so my concern that I'm expressing in the deletion of this and the other policy that goes along with it in 9065 is that the new policy that is taking over that does not address bylaws at all. And so I just wanted to make that comment and understand if I am interpreting this right or not. But from my understanding and reading through policy 208, bylaws aren't even mentioned. And so I don't know if it's prudent to adopt this policy without providing for how we address our bylaws.
Mr. Hanson, can you provide any comment on that?
Bylaws are Section 9000 of what you currently have as policies, and I guess I don't consider myself an expert in this area to differentiate the difference between policies and bylaws. In the entirety, to me, is your group of policies that guide the district, and so I look at them, as all important as policies, and any distinction is, to me, somewhat minor. But I leave that to you and your discussion.
Thank you. Any other discussion on 3B? All right, we will move on to 3D. Member Welty.
Isn't that the one I just talked about? There was one later on.
Oh, yes. Sorry, we did just talk about
I believe Member Johnston had some that might have been ahead of mine, although I'm not positive.
Thank you. All right.
No, we didn't talk about 3.
No, we talked about 3. You brought up 3. You asked for 3A, B, and D. We just did 3. Or was that all as one? Was that all as one comment, Member Welty?
Oh, they were. That related, I think, to the second one. And D, which one? What page is that on?
41.
41.
Just want to make sure that we're getting all the items you requested.
Looking at it right now, I'm not sure that's the one that I wanted to pull. There was one that talked about one that directed administration to, in a timely fashion, before meetings, provide school board members with information. That is being struck.
It is being struck, Member Welty, and moved to 208. I think to 203.5, and when we come to that item, we can discuss it as a group.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments on the deletion of adequate information and proceed to action? Okay, great. All right, Member Johnston, policy 3I.
Sure. Madam Chair, I actually meant to discuss and ask for a separate vote on these two.
Oh, so you're looking for a discussion and a separate vote on 3I and 3J?
Yes. If I
Okay,
could.
thank you. So we
that
will.
was my intent. Thank you.
Would you like them to be discussed and voted on together or separately?
We could maybe separately.
Okay, separately, and just a reminder, this is the first reading of these.
Yes, right. Yeah.
All right, so if you'll begin, the hard part is that so many of these two separately, I'm just going to ask a question back to the member. So many of these policies are actually a portion of the consolidation of policies, so I would actually ask the member if you'd be okay with providing them to be one vote, because so many have so many different nuances between the two.
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the cooperation there. So we will actually we'll discuss them separately, but we'll vote on them together.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Member Johnston, if you could please bring up your comments on 3I.
3I, and just to make sure we got our numbers right, that is the 203.2 order of regular school board meetings.
Page 47.
Am I correct on that?
Yep.
Make sure we're all on the same page here. Thank you. First, I want to say thanks for the board. We had a very good discussion. I think we probably had the longest discussion that we've had on policy since I've been on the board. Very good discussions as well, and I think very timely discussions. And so I'd like to really thank the board and the chair for facilitating some of that, and the chair of the business meeting to facilitating some of those discussions. I do have a couple of concerns. I expressed it, and I'm just asking for a vote because I do want to keep the discussion going. I'm assuming we will continue this discussion certainly next month. The first one, whoops, we're on the right page, is the order of the regular business school board meeting. There are several issues that I have on that which I didn't really pick up at the meeting, which I think are very, very significant. The first one is that this is replacing 9095, which is on the previous page, and is not in this one, is that, which is the last paragraph of 1995, that any questions of order arising not provided by these bylaws shall be decided according to Robert's Rules of Order. Newly revised. This is standard procedure, not only in a couple of the other MSBA policies, which I've looked at, but standard operating procedure in almost all organizations, such as school boards that we do follow. We have policy. When things aren't put in our policy or bylaws, those questions like meeting procedures are followed by Robert's Rules of Order. Another reason that I will be voting against this is that there's another policy, which is 203, which is the MSBA policy called Governing Rules, which state the rules of order is A, Minnesota statutes were specified, B, specific rules of order as provided by our school board, which is our policies, and C, Robert's Rules of Order revised latest edition that are not inconsistent with the statute and our other policies. There's many, many things like how do we set agendas, how do we vote on things, and certainly I think that is absolutely critical to have those kind of things in there. It's a thing that everybody uses, and I think we should as well. I also have more generic concerns about the agenda, or the way that this is put together, this agenda. First of all, we aren't following our resolution, which said we're going to follow MSBA policy. This is very clear in this one. This is dramatic changes on this. One of the biggest changes, which I brought up, which I think we really have to look at, is our committee structure. Again, I brought up on the thing, and for Mr. Welty's information and also the public's information, as there's another model policy, 2013, which is school board committees. And their committees, this is what the MSBA is recommending, is 4 committees, 1 audit, 2 policy, 3 building and grounds, 4 negotiation committees, plural. Those are the 4 committees. Now, again, I'm not saying that, again, I don't like following necessarily school board model policies, but if we're going to follow the policies, we should follow the policies, and if we don't, we don't. I just did some random checking on other school boards on their committee makeup, since it's being reported now after everybody had an organizational meeting. And it seems like our committee structure is very atypical. In fact, well, again, I just did random searches on it, and it seems like most of the ones that I've looked at have something more similar to the MSBA model policy. So those are reasons that, again, I'm asking for a vote on this. I'm hoping it doesn't, because if we vote on it doesn't mean we're not going to discuss it more. Of course, we are. I'll try to give more information to the board as well. But at this point, I think we have so many issues here that I really don't want to vote for it.
Thank you, Member Johnston. Member Sandstead.
I just wanted to say, as to the removal of the provision regarding Robert's Rules of Order, looking through the policies, I believe we have a specific policy saying that we adopt Robert's Rules of Order as sort of a default when there isn't another guiding provision. And so my opinion is we don't need it on the bottom of every individual policy, because it's just there overreaching everything here. So just wanted to point out that I don't see that as an issue, that it's not carrying over into the new policy, nor do I see it as an issue that we've individualized these policies from the MSBA model policy. I think that we should adopt these to our practices that work and adopt the things that can improve the way we work.
Thank you, Member Sandstead. Member Welty.
As I said, I've been out of the loop this month on the discussion. I don't know if Art pulled 203.5, but I did read ahead very quickly, and I saw something scratched out.
We are currently discussing number 2032, and 2035 will be next.
Okay. I will say this. I see something scratched out of the next one we will be discussing.
And we'll discuss that.
That heartens me and shows me that there was a serious discussion I missed, and I'll look forward to catching up with you.
Great. Other discussions on 2032? All right, we'll move on to 2035. And yes, I would like to highlight from that portion, I know Member Johnson bring this forward, but there was a significant discussion about, changing the agenda at the time of a meeting, and lots of back and forth, and there was a very strong, without coming to a consensus at the board meeting, by sticking with this, that we should, if there's a majority of the board that supports changing the agenda, then that's okay, and that just in being fair, and so saw that coming forward. Member Johnston, you pulled this, or this is also part of that. So, did you have more comments that are different from the one before, or okay?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Again, just some other comments on that. I want to say again, thanks to the board. I'm going to be voting against this, obviously, but I do want to thank the board for the discussion we had, and I'm looking forward to having further discussion on it. I think we got a lot of progress on it there. One of the things we didn't talk about much, and I do want to mention, is that in general, I'm in agreement with this in general. But there's some concerns. One, we changed the model policy to add the word clerk, and I see no reason for that whatsoever. It is important that model policies has the superintendent and the chair to make. Remember, a tentative agenda, that's what it's called, which is obviously what it is. Then we go and approve, the full board then approves that at the start of the meeting like we did in this meeting. So I see absolutely no reason whatsoever to have another person involved in that. And again, to keep more consistent with the MSBA policy, I think they had a reason to do that as well. And so that is an issue that I really don't think that we should have there. Another issue that we did talk about that I have a concern about, it still isn't clear yet about how we're going to be giving our information or the policies and the agenda supporting documents. I still am not clear about that. Again, I want hard copy documents. I just don't want electronic. Yes, it's good to have electronic, but I think we need to make sure that continues. And I do want to get them in a more timely manner. And many issues we've had, we are given stuff to us literally at the start of the meeting. Sometimes that's unavoidable, but in most cases it's not. So I just really want to have a policy that says that we will be given hard copy stuff prior to the meeting, so we can make better discussions, and also at our meeting here to make them available to the public so they know what we're talking about.
Thank you, Member Jensen. I know that one portion of the discussion was actually to talk about that and how the number of days in advance, and by the time we finish our meeting on a Tuesday evening for the Education Committee, the amount of time it would be to compile and then mail out is really hard, so it's great that we have that electronic board book. It's also discussed that we could move to tablets, which would be it would be a significant cost and savings in the long run for us to be able to have electronic copies of that, and then that would be something that is just available, and I'm sure people could come in and make copies as needed, but in moving forward. So next light on, Member Oswald.
Yes, I just want to echo that I was concerned about the addition of clerk into this policy, also considering it wasn't there to begin with, mostly because the discussion that we had also centered around the amount of time and effort it takes for all of us board members to do different committees and different things, and limits our ability to attend other committees that we may want to go to because of conflicts and things. And I just saw this as not making a lot of common sense, since we pay our chair an additional amount of money to do the extra duties of the chair. And here we have a policy that says, our chair is given an extra duty, and here's another person on our school board that's going to do this extra duty for free. And I think that that's conflicting and sending a different message of why can't just the clerk work through the chair and not have to worry about having to be, present and available for that meeting all the time. This is not a personal statement about who I'm thinking about people in the future who might not want to be clerk because they have to do something else for free as part of their duties.
Thank you.
That's just my comment. Thanks.
Member Welty.
First, just a point of clarification. All of these policies are in their first reading, is that correct?
That is
so
correct.
We will have another month to revisit them.
That's correct.
Which is heartening for me because I wasn't here this last month.
Member Welty, may I make a comment
Yes.
with regard to that? I'd just appreciate the administration that they didn't put anything forward last month so that it had to be discussed by 2 different iterations of the board. And so, yes, any reading that is done by this iteration of the board is the first this month.
And I agree, that makes perfect sense. As I said, when I jumped ahead when we were on 2302, I'd read ahead to 2305 and saw a magical deletion which heartened me immensely. Now, I'd like to say this for the student members of our body who've just joined us for the first time. There has been a spirited discussion for a year or two about how items get discussed at the school board. Some benighted members of the school board who are in a minority have felt that they have not been able to discuss issues. And what you're seeing here is a serious attempt by this new board to make sure that nothing is held away from discussion. And I will say, perhaps you could pick this up from what I said, that I'm kind of heartened by what I'm seeing here. And the particular line that I'm particularly pleased to see deleted in 2305 is 3D, which deletes the requirement on the day of a school board meeting for a unanimous vote of the school board. Now it would be a simple majority, so 4 people could see to it that an item was discussed. And that goes a long way to make sure that a minority is not deprived of a chance to talk over something they think is important. I'll have to look through all of these myself, but just seeing that tells me that there's been a lot of thought that has gone into this. And I have to disagree with you, Member Oswald, because I had made an assumption. It turned out to be incorrect, and the proof that I was incorrect, and perhaps you as well, is on page 40, the old policy 8085, determining a meeting agenda. And this is about the clerk's responsibility in the agenda setting process. Although it doesn't specifically say that the clerk and the superintendent and the chair set the agenda, this is what the old policy that's recommended for deletion says. The agenda for each school board meeting shall be prepared jointly in advance by the chairperson of the school board, the superintendent, and the clerk of the school board. So effectively, the old wording did have the clerk in there helping set the agenda, at least it implies that. So I don't mind seeing the clerk's position retained. It harkens back to that old policy. And the more critical point for me is that no longer will a requirement of a unanimous board be necessary to add something during a school board meeting, because effectively that makes it impossible. Because if the chair won't let a minority talk about something, the chairman can single-handedly thwart everybody else by not making a vote unanimous. So that's no longer going to be a problem.
Thank you. I would agree that there was a good-spirited discussion. Member Johnston.
Just a couple real quick comments on that. I believe Member Oswald, she can correct herself, was referring to the model policy. And I think that we had some of this discussion as if we talked about maybe we should have too many, we don't want to load ourselves down with committees. And we have a de facto agenda committee. And by having the chair and a clerk in there and the superintendent, that is really not necessary. We don't have a need to have another committee setting an agenda. The chair and the superintendent are well able to do that, I think, on their own. But we can talk about that next week. I don't really care one way or another either. I did want to say about, you made a good point on the cost, but I think that we have to look at the cost as I think the cost for preparing an agenda goes into mainly preparing the agenda, not printing it out. There's a lot of
Mailing.
paperwork, there's a lot of organizing, there's a lot of typing, which our clerks do very good at. But that is where the most of the item, anybody who works on computers know, the hard part is typing it up and organizing it and putting the page numbers on and all that, and we have to do that whether or not we have a hard copy or if it's on a tablet. And sending it to the printer is a minor cost. Yeah, we have to compile it, is putting our little binders on it, but the hard part is the actual composing it and doing the actual typing, and so I think it's well worth it. And computer costs are quite high. Again, this is a minor issue, but I can't resist saying it. There's been many studies that show that questioning whether or not computer costs would save us any money, and that's just a sidelight kind of saying, kind of a joke. We'd have to look at just going everything to computerized stuff isn't necessarily a way to save us money.
I'd be very interested to see the cost breakdown of the two. Member Oswald.
Thank you, Member Johnson. Yes, I was just referring to the new MSBA policy, knowing that the policy you referred to was being deleted. So, and it is, technically adopting and updating a little. So, thank you.
Member Welty, another comment.
Actually, I'd like to go back to the one that I didn't pull out correctly, so I'll wait until we're finished with this discussion, and then I just have a question on 8100, if I could ask that at a later point.
We did go through that already, but okay. Is there any way that it could happen next month at the meeting, or is it? Okay, thank you. Knowing you haven't slept very much either, and there's many staff that have been here all day. Superintendent.
I don't chime in when it comes to a policy that's really your realm. I just wanted to say, respond to your interest in having a breakdown of electronic versus hard copies of the agenda and minutes, and we can take a look at those budgets and have that for next month's discussion on the topic. Just the piece that we print this off for all the board members for the committees, and then we revise it after the committees, and we reprint it and bind it and mail it, so it's being printed and mailed twice. And it's this month is 100 and 40 pages times 7 times 2, and then mailing it. So I think that the cost might be more than we think it might be, but I'll bring estimates for that for your discussion next month.
Thank you, Superintendent. We'll move all the discussions to that next month once we have that information. So is there a comment about that? If it is, we can move it to next month. Okay. Thank you, Member Johnston. All right. Seeing no other lights, we will move on policy. We will vote on items 3I and 3J. So all those in favor of adopting policy 2032 and policy 203. Point of information, Member Welty.
Since this is a second reading, presumably the vote
this is a first reading?
But since this is a first reading, presumably the only time we really need to vote on it would be the second when we would just simply pass this as part of the business committee.
That's correct, but it's been requested by Member Johnston that we vote on it separately. So in deference to our colleague with his request, we'll honor that. All right, members, on items 3I and 3J, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Policy passes 5. Oh my gosh. Well, movement passes, I and J pass 5-2. You have that, Melinda? Okay, thank you. All right, and now for the business committee, seeing no other comments. All those in favor of passage of the business committee report, say aye. Opposed? That passes 6-1. And then there are no special resolutions, questions or other. So with that said, We'll adjourn our meeting tonight. Thank you very much.